let me tell you about the wonderful Egyptian deities. Tell you about the Octoat, the Ennead, the 42 assessors of Ma'at, the divine tribunal of the dead, the different triads of Memphis, Thebes, and Elephantine, the 7 Hathors, and the souls of Per and Nechen. Let me begin with the Octoat, whom were worshipped in Hermopolis. In the beginning, there was nothing but water, the primordial water known as Nu or Nin, the very beginning of the Egyptian mythology, a boundless and unknowable sea, a vast sea of still silence, a watery darkness that cradled the unborn cosmos. There is also a female aspect of Nin called Naunit or Ninit. Both Nin and Ninit are part of the Octoat. The oceanic abyss of the Nin has been envisioned as a bubble floating in this infinite gloom. Within it, the possibility of life, representing the deepest mystery of their cosmogony. From this eternal water, a mound emerged, called Ben Ben, the first land, a hillock rising from the depths, like the world's own heartbeat. From this mound, a lotus emerged, and this lotus blossomed, and Re came forth, the sun. In some stories, so I have been told, Re has the appearance of a shining child, while others talk about a scarab, a heron, or a falcon, when he emerged out of this primordial lotus. Yet, there are other whispers too. Some speak of Mechet Beret, meaning the great flood, the great cosmic howl who bore the sun between her horns, a symbol so important that other deities will wear it as well, and poured its fire into the sky. There's also a rumor that Mechet Beret is also the Milky Way. Others tell how Atum, the all that was yet alone, stirred within the Nin, not alive, not dead, but waiting, and from his will the world began. In some stories that I've been told, it is said that Atum, who created himself, is also the father of Shu and Tefnut, who are both also part of the Ennead, while other stories tell about Re being the father of Shu and Tefnut. And Nun, he remains, always just beneath the skin of the world. He is not banished, he is not defeated, he surrounds, he waits, for all things that rise, eventually return to the deep and will rise again, like a cosmic circle. Now, let me continue with the Octoat, the pre-creation forces representing the state before the world existed. In the watery hush that was Nun, there stirred 4 pairs, male and female twins, whose very names whisper the facets of primordial being. First came Nun and Naunit, twin tides of deep, formless water, parents to everything that ever was, yet bound to nothing. Beside them flowed He and Hawed, embodiments of infinite time and space, and their laughter echoing through the voids, forging the limitless expanse where worlds might one day spin. Then slung Kek, which means darkness, and Kauket, twins of pure darkness, so dense that light itself trembled to appear. And completing the circle rose Amun and Amaunet, which means the hidden one, spirits of the hidden wind, unseen yet felt, breath of mystery that would later become kingly breath in Thebes. Together, these 8 deities formed the Octoad, not a family by blood, but by cosmic function. They swirled in the abyss, waving the very fabric of chaos, until at last the waters boiled upward, birthing the first mounds. Only then did creation truly begin, and the sun god climb into the dawn. So remember, before the red golden chariot, before Atom's first sigh, there were but 8 silent architects of all that ever would be. And the Octoad did not give rise to a new generation, yet they moved through the deep, and the deep moved with them. From their swirling union came something more profound than flesh. A rising mount, the Ben, piercing the waters like the spine of creation itself, from which a lotus emerged, which in turn brought forth Re. But be careful, there is more to that story, for the tale of Amun is not one that stands still. It shifts like smoke in sacred incense. In the beginning, he was unseen, a whisper in the dark, one of the 8. Amun, the hidden one, who breathed in silence and gave voice to nothing. He had no child, no temple, no face. But times changed, as even gods are shaped by the prayers of men. In the golden age of Thebes, Amun rose, not just as breath, but as king. He took Mut, the mother, as his queen, and from their union sprang the moon itself, a divine child named Khonsu, who danced across the night sky, measuring time by silver and shadow. In hidden shrines, other names were spoken: Harapara, defender of the sun; Tiananyet, fierce and radiant. So Amun, once formless, became father. Not because he changed, but because the world learned to see him. Now, let me tell you about the Ennead who were worshipped in Heliopolis. The 9 gods bound by blood and breath, whose stories shaped the bones of the earth and the rhythm of the stars. They were not merely deities. They were the architecture of existence. The name itself derives from the Greek word Enneas, meaning the 9. In the beginning, there was Atom, not Re. He would arose alone from shimmering mount that broke through Nun's endless water. In the ancient voices of Memphis priests, it was Ptah who was in the beginning and brought Atom into existence. The ancient priests also spoke of Atumure, alone, yet not lonely, for within himself stood both male and female. With a breath, or perhaps a sigh, he birthed Shu, meaning emptiness or he who rises up, the air who lifts, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. From their union came the world's first embrace, Geb or Gebeb, the earth lying firm and green, and Nut, the sky, stretched above him in star-drenched silence. But their love was so fierce that Shu was forced to thrust himself between them, holding them forever apart, so that space could exist, so that life could move between breath and sky. And then came the fall. Vizier, the eldest, was crowned in black and green. He taught mortals how to farm, how to live, how to die with grace. He was the good king, and all things green bowed to him, but the good things do not last long in the land of gods. Beside him stood Usat, his sister and wife, whose words could bend death and truth alike. A goddess of sharp eyes and sharper spells, she spoke in tongues forgotten by man and wove the first charms beneath a silver moon. Then came Sage, red of hair, wild of spirit, born of the desert's storm and rage. He envied, he coveted, and in the end he broke his brother into pieces and cast him to the winds. And last of the four, Neverhood, wailed in shadow and sorrow. She wept beside Vizier's spear, and though she wore no crown, yet her silence sang the first funeral chant, and her hands heard the first libation. And from them came Vizier and Acid, came Herusa Acid, her the child. The falcon-eyed hare, hidden in the marshes and raised in secret, he would one day challenge Sage for the throne, his voice ringing across the black land like thunder on stone. From Neverhood, a child was born in shadow, Inpu, who man would later call Anubis, god of embalming and the watcher of the western horizon. Some say he was the son of Vizier, others whisper of Sage, but he loved his uncle and wrapped him in linen with reverent paws. Sage, he had probably no children that the gods would name, and Heru, aka Her, the child of vengeance, he would rise, he would rule, but no children are named from his line, for his was the burden of kingship, not fatherhood. So, the line of gods grew thin, the divine blood purring slowly into the Nile of time. And the Ennead, 9 figures, etched into eternity. They rose from breath, they ruled the earth, and through murder, magic and mourning, they shaped the very meaning of kingship, justice, and rebirth. Their stories do not end, they echo. Every rising sun is Re or Atum reborn. Every burial is Vizier embraced. Every rightful king is Heru standing tall. Let us now journey into the sacred hall of Two Truths, where the heart of the deceased is weighed against the feather of Ma'at, and the 42 assessors of Ma'at bear silent witness. When a soul stood before the throne of Vizier, lord of the silent land, it was not alone. At his side stood Inpu, the jackal-headed guide, who carried the dead gently from the tomb. And nearby, quill in hand, eyes gleaming with moonlight, sat Jehuti, divine scribe, ready to record the fate of the departed. Before them lay the scales, and upon one side the heart, Ip, of the deceased, on the other the feather of Ma'at. Not just a feather, but the essence of truth, balance, and the cosmic order that holds sky aloft and river in its banks. But the judgment was not passed by these three alone. Arrayed in silence, as if carved from the black stone of the Duat, stood the 42 assessors of Ma'at. Minor gods, yet mighty in purpose. Each held dominion over a single transgression, the smallest misstep, the faintest stain upon the soul. And for each sin, the dead would speak a denial. I have not stolen. I have not killed. I have not uttered lies. One confession for each god, 42 in total. No room for hesitation, for truth must be spoken without tremble in the presence of Ma'at. This ritual, set down in ink and memory, in chapter 125 of the Book of the Dead was no mere trial. It was a mirror held up to the life lived. To speak these words with clean heart was to prove oneself worthy of eternity. Each of these assessors bore not just a sin, but a nome, a district of the two lands. This was no accident. It was a reminder. Ma'at reigned not only in the heavens, but in every village, shrine, and reed hut along the Nile. The gods watched, the land listened. The negative confessions were not commandments carved by thunder. They were vows whispered through time, told by mothers and priests alike, not as laws to obey, but as truths to live by. If the heart was found equal in weight to the feather, if the soul had walked in harmony with Ma'at, it was declared Ma'acheru, true of voice, and the gates opened to the field of reeds, Aru, and your soul will experience eternal peace and pleasure. This paradise was a place of abundance, beauty, and joy, where the deceased could reunite with loved ones and live in harmony with the goddesses and gods. But if the heart ached with hidden wrongs, then came Amit, the devourer, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus. An old terror, she did not punish, she erased. Soul unworthy of Ma'at was not cast into fire, it was unmade. More than ritual, more than judgment, Ma'at was Egypt's spine. From gold to blood, from pharaoh to fisherman, it guided every act. And the 42, they were the silent chorus, reminding the living that justice was not a matter of power, but of harmony. The walk in Ma'at was not merely to live well, it was to live rightly and to pass into eternity with a heart unburdened and a voice that could speak truth before the gods. Now, let me tell you about the 42 assessors of Ma'at, beginning with number 1, Usach Nemt, the fast rider from the province of Heliopolis, and for falsehood. Next, Hebt Ched, fire embracer, Chehara, robbery, Fenty, the noisy one, Hermopolis, stealing, Amhaibit, swallower of shades, the coven, murder, Nehaher, the dangerous one, Rosetau, stealing crane, Ruhuti, the double lion, the sky, purloined offerings, Arfi Emchet, fiery eyes, the Topolis, stealing God's property. Never the flame came forth backwards, lying. Said Queso, the bone breaker, Heracleopolis, taking food, Utunnesert, the green of flame, Memphis, cursing, Karte, you of the cavern, the west, adultery, Kenemti, divide of thief, Fayum, causing tears, Hech Abhu or Shesmu, the house of nature, the shambles, killing a sacred bull, Ta Eretio, the eater of entrails, house of 30, stealing lands, Unem Snev, the lords of truth, Ma'ati, eavesdropping, Unem Vesek, the wanderer, Bubastis, complains, Nip Ma'at, the pale one, Heliopolis, being angry, Tenemio, doubly evil, Anjat, adultery, Sertio, the empty snake, place of execution, again adultery, Tutu, see whom you bring, house of Min, polluting the body, Uamenti, over the old one, Imao, terrorizing, Ma Antuf, demolisher, Kois, transgressing, Heru Uru, disturber, variates, being hot-tempered, Hemu, youth, Heliopolitan gnome, unhearing of truth, Shed Heru, foreteller, Venice, making disturbance, Neb Heru, you of the altar, the secret place, violence, half, face behind him, cavern of wrong, copulating with a boy, Unhetepith, hotfoot, the dusk, transgression again, Zera Hero, you of the darkness, quarreling, Neb Hero, bringer of your offerings, sighs, undully active, Zechio, owner of faces, Nejephet, 13th and 14th Upper Egyptian gnome, impatience, Neb Abui, accuser, Vegenet, in Punt, damaging a god's image, owner of horns, Asyut, volubility of speech, Nefertem, Memphis, wrongdoing, Temseb or Temsepu, Busiris, conjuration against the king, Alri Emabeth, you who acted willfully, Chebu, stopping water flow, Ahi, water smiter, the abyss, being loud-voiced, Uach Rechit, commander of mankind, your house, rewiling god, Nehebkau, the harpoon gnome, 7th and 8th Lower Egyptian gnome, arrogance, Neheb Nefert, bestower of powers, the city, making distinctions for self, Hedge Abhu, serpent with raised head, the cavern, dishonest wealth, and the last one, Neb Abui, serpent who brings and gives, in the silent land, and the sin, blasphemy. These deities, each overseeing a specific moral transgression, played a crucial role in the ancient Egyptian afterlife judgment process. The deceased would declare the innocent of each sin before these assessors in the negative confessions during the weighing of the heart ceremony, as described in chapter 125 of the Book of the Dead. The old tales also speak of the divine tribunal of dead, the court of eternal judgment, when the soul of the deceased stepped beyond the veil of the living. They were brought by ritual, by magic, by memory, to the place where all truths are laid bare, the hall of Ma'at, and its heart set the divine tribunal. This was no symbolic assembly. It was a court more ancient than the pyramids, where gods did not argue, but watched, listened, and judged. The tribunal's core members were Vizier, Lord of the Dead, Chief Judge. He sits enthroned, green-skinned and regal, wearing the Atef crown and holding a crook and flay, His presence is not wrathful, but still, as if death itself has a heartbeat. Inpo, guardian of the threshold, protector of the scale, jackal-headed and silent as the grave. Inpo does not judge, nor does he weigh. Instead, he guards the sacred rite. He guides the soul to the heart of Ma'at, oversees the purity of the weighing, and ensures no deceit tips the balance. He is the dark-robed priest of the afterlife, and his amber eyes see what mortals hide. Jehoti, scribe of the gods, witness of the scales, Ibis-headed, flies beyond stars. Jehoti watches as the heart is weighed. He holds no blade, speaks no curse. Instead, his hand writes the truth, only the truth. When the scales rest still, he recalls the result. If the song is true, he turns the vizier and proclaims, "He is Ma Kero, true of voice." It is he who makes sure that everything will be fair. If your heart is pure, he makes sure, vizier, the one who decides your fate, will see it and decide accordingly. Ma'at, the feather of truth, presence of balance. Not always a speaker, but always present. She is not justice enforced, she is justice revealed. And Amit, the devourer of the unworthy, a beast of nightmare, head of crocodile, 4/4 of lion, hint of hippopotamus. She does not stalk the court. She waits beneath the scale, her jaws trembling in anticipation. If your heart outweighs the feather, you will feed her, and you will cease to be. The tribunal does not accuse, and that was the work of the 42 assessors. The tribunal judges, they decide whether your soul is Mahero, true of voice, a spell often inscribed in tombs to help the deceased. On her passage into the words, if you are judged righteous, you pass into the field of reeds, a mirror of the perfect Egypt, where crops grow tall, family is united, and no shadow touches the day. But if your heart is heavy, and it devours, there is no hell, no fire, only annihilation, the soul undone, memory lost, as if you never were. The tribunal is not a place of punishment. It is the final balance, the cosmic harmony restored. Every living being must one day stand before it. Even kings, even gods, some say. So live with your heart light, speak truth, do not harm. And when your day come, let your voice ring clear. I am true of voice. I have walked in my art. I have not failed the gods. Now we come to the sacred triads. Not just groups of gods, but divine households. And these were the pillars of the cities, the sacred families that watched over temples, pharaohs, and the rhythm of daily life. While the Ennead sang of creation and succession, and the tribunal waited the soul, the triads ruled the land, each one a mirror of the divine order, made local and personal. Creating to create, thought and sudden fire, the triad of Memphis. In the ancient city of Mennefer, which you may know as Memphis, there rose a triad unlike the others. Here, the gods did not shape the world through battle or breath. No, here the world was spoken and forged into being. Ta, the architect of thought, he spoke and the world formed. He dreamed and stone obeyed. Dressed as a priest, wrapped tight in linen, Ka was not a builder's hand, but the mind behind the chisel. He is the one who thought of creation and spoke it into being. Sekhmet, the lioness of flame, wife to Ptah. No softer for it. She swore plague, vengeance, and healing. A lioness whose breath scorched armies, whose rage once nearly ended humanity. And yet, she's also the protector of kings, the purifier of wrongs. Sekhmet who burns, so that the world might heal. And Nefertem, the young lotus born of light. And their son, Nefertem, rises from the blue lotus, gentle scent, but powerful of magic. He brings the freshness of rebirth, the light that soothes the wounded. He is perfume and renewal. He is the balm after the burn. Here, creation is not chaos nor degree. It is order, reason, and healing fire. Hidden power, divine motherhood, and the rhythm of the moon, the triad of Thebes. In the city of Mazit, which the Greeks would call Thebes, the gods rose as kings of kings. Here, the triad was not just family, it was empire, and its father god would come to rule the heavens themselves. Amun, the hidden one. None could see him, but all could feel him. Born of the Octoad, ascended by kings, Amun was breath, wind, and mystery. In late ages, he was joined with the sun and became Amun-Re, king of gods, whisperer in silence, protector of the just. Mut, the vulture mother. His consort was Mut, the great mother. Fierce, regal, wrapped in stars and crown, she wore no chaos, only strength. Some say she was lioness, some vulture. All saw her as queen. She was not born, she simply was. And Khonsu, the wandering moon. Their son Khonsu, the god of the moon, silent traveler, timekeeper, and healer of the night. In his crescent crown, he crossed the sky, measuring months and marking destiny. Some feared him as a devourer of time, others sprang to him in illness. Either way, he always returned. This triad is rule, wrapped in mystery, divine breath, queenly power, and the moon that never rests. And the last one, the flood, the bow, and the swift currents, the triad of Elephantine. Far to the south, where Egypt kissed Nubia at the Cataracts Road, stood Abu, Elephantine. There, the ninth life force was honored as divine, and its sacred guardians stood watch over the very souls of the flood. Khnum, the potter of flesh, ram-headed and wise, Khnum was said to sit at his wheel and shape every human child from Nile clay. He crafted bones, skin, soul, each spun with care, but he was more than creator. He was gatekeeper of the Nile source, turning the flood on and off with divine precision. Satit, the bow of the south. His consort, Satit, stood swift and deadly, a goddess of the bow and the floods. She poured fresh water upon the land and shot down the seas with sacred arrows. In her crown, the white antelope horns marked her as Southern Queen. She blessed, but never bowed. And Anuket, the speed of the current. Their daughter, Anuket, was the river swiftness incarnate, sleek as the waters, wild as the path. She wore the tall feathered crown and sped across the land. As she moved, the Nile sang. She was both grace and danger. To these gods, water was not just life, it was blood, speed, and soul. And so, 3 great cities had 3 sacred tribes. Memphis of mind and fire, Thebes of kings and moonlight, and Elephantine of clay, bow, and current. Each a house, each a family, each a mirror of how Egypt saw itself. Let me now tell you about the sacred sisterhood, the 7 Hathors. And these are goddesses of fate, and their names are whispered at birth and in death, but never spoken in between. Weavers of fate, singers of secrets. Though they bear the same name, they are not one, but 7 forms, 7 masks, 7 voices carried on the wind. All are called Hathor, yet each sees the world through a different veil. They are the watchers at the cradle, the whispers at your ear. They are goddesses, yes, but also something older, something more, inevitable. When a child is born, the 7 Hathors are summoned, not by incense or chant, but by the very act of life entering the world. And they gather, unseen, beside the mother, and together they speak the fate of the newborn. Will she live long? Will she see greatness or grief? Will the love come early or never at all? They do not decide, they simply see. And once a fate is spoken, not even the gods may unwave it. But beware, should their knowledge be overheard or stolen, the world might break to hide it. For to know one's fate is to carry it like a stone in your soul. And they often appear as 7 cows grazing beside the sacred sycamore tree, the tree of Hathor, Lady of the West. With them stands a great bull, a silent guardian of their visions. In 2 pantheons and funerary rites, offerings are made to these cows, that the soul may eat, drink, and rejoice in the afterlife. Sometimes, and they are shown as 7 beautiful women, each wearing a solar disk, and cow horns of Hathor, holding trombones or sistrums, their music echoing across the veil between worlds. Other times, they wear masks of cats, of snakes, of lions. For fate takes many faces. Their names in later texts. In some later traditions, the individual names survive. Lady of the House of Jubilation, Mistress of the West, she who foretold, the one who comes at the call, she whose name flourishes, the hidden one, and she who is in a house of silence. But remember, names have power, and these names were not always spoken aloud. These 7 Hathors are not only present at birth, but at death as well. They guide the soul to the field of breeds, ensuring it is not thirsty, not forgotten. Their cows provide milk and bread. Their songs calm the restless spirit. Some say that if your fate has been too cruel, the Hathors may take pity and rewrite a line, ever so slightly. A thread shifted and not loosened. But only if your name is still sung by the living. And they are fate, they are music, they are 7 and 1. They are Hathor, who waits in 7 shadows, holding 7 mirrors, each showing a different life. you might have lived. We have come to the last part. You have heard of gods who shape the sky, who veil the soul, who birth light itself. But now, let me tell you of the souls of Nechen, and not gods in the usual sense, but ancient spirits, watchers, ancestors so divine that even the gods bowed their heads when they passed. Guardians of kingship, spirits older than thrones. They are called souls, yeah, but not the wandering ghosts of men, no. And these are the living spirits of the first, the divine ancestors of kingship itself. They hail from two sacred cities, Pe in Lower Egypt, the domain of the northern crown, and Nechen in Upper Egypt, where the reed sways in the southern wind. Before Egypt was won, before Nama's palette was carved, these cities burned with spirits, and their souls, those of great ancestral lords, falcon-cloaked and lion-eyed, became eternal guardians of the throne. But who were they? Well, the priests would not say. Their names were lost in gold and silence. But in every coronation, every temple rite, they were invoked, praised, and summoned to bear witness. Some say the souls of Pe are the living echoes of the falcon, Eru, and the divine ruler, the eye of vengeance and justice, and the souls of Nechen, lions, guardians of the Red Land, spirit of fierce royalty, and the southern crown. Together, they are dual, like the two lands, separate yet bound. And when a new pharaoh was crowned, he did not claim power alone, no. He stood between Pe and Nechen, flanked by these ancient souls. Without their blessing, no kingship held weight. Without their memory, no reign would last. In temple carvings, they are shown as falcon-headed spirits, carrying the emblems of power. In some, they wear crowns, white for the south, red for the north, reminding all that even the living king is but a child of what came before. They were called upon, not ruled over. They were honored, not commanded. They stood not in the hall of Ma'at, nor beside the Ennead, but behind the veil, whispering legitimacy into the ears of gods and men. They are not gods you pray to, they are gods you inherit from. And if a king forgets them, his name fades, his rule cracks, his pyramid crumbles. We are the breath in your coronation, they say. We are the sword behind your justice. We are the crown you think you earned. Of course, let us end not with thunder, but with reverence. A quiet breath drawn beneath the stars, where the gods still listen, and perhaps still wait. You have walked now through the sacred names, traced the bloodlines of eternity, and stood in halls where truth is weighed and fate is sung. You have met creators who shaped the world with breath, mourners who held death like a brother, mothers who whispered magic into the sky, and watchers older than time. These were no idle idols. These were not myths told only to pass along lights. They were foundations. They were memory given form. They were how Egypt spoke to the stars and to itself. From the Octoad, who stirred the first silence, to the Ennead, who ruled in sun and shadow, to the tribunals and triads who judged and guarded, to the 7 Hathors who watched from cradle to coffin, to the souls of Pe and Nechen who watched still. And these were some of the deities of Egypt, and though they no longer stride beneath the palms, their names when spoken still carry weight. So speak them with care, speak them with wonder, Speak them as one might speak a truth not yet forgotten. And if the gods hear you, as they often do, may they bow back. Never forget, the ancient gods are not gone, they are merely veiled, waiting in silence. Still they walk their hidden paths, still they steer the winds between the worlds. In the quiet places of the earth, in dream and dusk, the old gods remember, and they are watching.